Millions of people fly to California every year, chasing the postcard version of the Golden State. What they find instead are overpriced tourist traps, hour-long lines, and disappointment with a $30 price tag attached. Chinatown, San Francisco. San Francisco's Chinatown is one of the oldest and most photographed Chinatowns in the world. Visitors come expecting authentic culture, family-run shops, and a taste of history in the heart of the city. The Dragon Gate alone pulls in thousands of tourists every year looking for something real. What many find instead is a stretch of stalls selling the same mass-produced trinkets you could buy anywhere. Locals and travel writers alike have pointed out that many shops now cater purely to tourists, with imported souvenirs replacing the neighborhood's original character. The authentic experience people came looking for is harder to find than it used to be. Visitors who wander a few blocks off the main strip sometimes find more of the real neighborhood, but for those sticking to the main tourist path, the experience feels manufactured. A stop built on history ends up feeling like a gift shop that never ends. Legoland, California. Legoland, California in Carlsbad promises a colorful escape built entirely from plastic bricks, and for years it has marketed itself as a must-do family stop near San Diego. Life-size Lego sculptures of cities, dinosaurs, and Star Wars scenes line the park, drawing families in with the promise of a full day of fun. The problem shows up fast for anyone without a small child in tow. Reviewers consistently describe the rides as slow, short, and built almost entirely for kids under 10, leaving teenagers and adults with little to do. One visitor described paying nearly $200 just to look at Lego characters, calling the price tag for what you actually get simply not worth it. Add in overpriced food, towels that cost $15, and lines that can stretch over an hour for a 2-minute ride, and the disappointment compounds fast. Families who bring older kids often find themselves cutting the visit short, wishing they had taken the trip a few years earlier or skipped it altogether. Griffith Observatory. Griffith Observatory sits on a hilltop above Los Angeles, offering one of the most famous views in the city. Tourists climb up for sweeping shots of the Hollywood sign and the skyline below, drawn by its reputation as a can't-miss LA landmark. Getting there is where the trouble starts. A study by financing company Money Barn ranked Griffith Observatory's parking as the worst of any major tourist attraction on the planet, based on cost, availability, and the sheer number of one-star reviews mentioning it. Visitors report circling for 30 minutes or more before giving up and parking half a mile down the hill, then hiking back in the dark with no working lights to guide them. Even once tourists reach the top, the reviews describe long queues for the telescope and packed crowds at sunset, the park's busiest hour. The view is real, so is the traffic jam, the $10 an hour parking meters, and the walk back down that ruins the moment for plenty of visitors. Six Flags Magic Mountain. Six Flags Magic Mountain in Santa Clarita bills itself as the roller coaster capital of the world, with nearly 20 coasters promising an adrenaline-packed day. Thrill seekers travel from across the state, hoping to ride some of the tallest, fastest tracks in the country. The wait times tell a different story. Multiple visitors report standing in line for up to 2 hours for a single ride that lasts less than 2 minutes. One reviewer described getting through only 2 rides in 5 hours due to breakdowns and overcrowding, calling it a total waste of money. Even entering the park can take close to an hour once security and ticketing lines are factored in. Veteran visitors now openly recommend avoiding the park entirely between June and August, when lines turn brutal. For anyone who shows up during peak season without knowing this, a day meant for thrills turns into a day spent standing still. Winchester Mystery House. The Winchester Mystery House in San Jose is one of California's strangest legends, a sprawling Victorian mansion with over 160 rooms, staircases leading to ceilings, and doors that open into nothing. Built by Sarah Winchester, heir to the Winchester rifle fortune, the house draws tourists hunting for a real-life ghost story. The reviews tell a more grounded tale. Visitors consistently call the $40 ticket price steep for what they get, with tour guides described as rushed, monotone, and reciting scripted lines with little room for questions. One reviewer flatly called it the biggest scam of a tour they had ever experienced, saying the price should be closer to $10. There's no air conditioning inside, and summer tours have left visitors miserable in the heat. The strange architecture is real and does exist exactly as advertised. But the paranormal thrill many come chasing is mostly marketing, and plenty of tourists leave, feeling like they paid a premium for a house tour with no payoff. Universal Studios Hollywood. Universal Studios Hollywood promises a working movie studio combined with a full theme park, complete with Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, and a real backlot tour. For first-time visitors to Los Angeles, it's often near the top of the must-see list. The reality often falls short of the marketing. Reviewers frequently describe it as smaller and less packed with rides than its Florida counterpart, with waits stretching past 2 hours for popular attractions like the studio tour. One visitor called the queues diabolical, saying there was almost nothing in the park without a long wait, and left before finishing the day. Add separate charges for parking, food, and upgraded tours on top of already steep admission, and the total cost climbs fast. Even reviewers who enjoyed the rides often walked away calling the park overpriced for what it actually delivers in a single day. Alcatraz Island. Alcatraz Island promises history most tourists can't resist. A former maximum security prison that once held Al Capone, now sitting just off the San Francisco shoreline. Over 1 million people take the ferry out every year to walk through its crumbling cell blocks. What greets them on arrival is often more crowd than history. Visitors describe stepping off the boat into a chaotic mass of people, being warned by rangers about a steep, dangerous climb up to the cell house, and finding much of the site little more than weathered ruins covered in bird droppings. Tickets sell out days in advance, and prices climb once ferry and audio tour fees are added together. Most visitors say once is enough, and several admit the experience is worth seeing, but genuinely disappointing compared to the buildup. Between the crowding, the incline, and the price tag for a short ferry ride and a walk through ruins, more than a few tourists leave, feeling like the legend oversold the visit. Napa Valley Wine Train. Napa Valley markets itself as America's premier wine country, and the Napa Valley Wine Train promises the ultimate way to see it, gliding tourists past vineyards while pouring glasses along the way. It's one of the most heavily advertised trips in Northern California. The reality has drawn sharp criticism. USA Today named the wine train one of the biggest tourist traps in the world after analyzing millions of Google reviews, and locals describe the entire Napa experience as overrun and overpriced. Wineries that once offered free tastings now charge steep fees just to sample a glass, and hotel rates in the region have climbed alongside them. One longtime visitor described the entire valley as no longer what it used to be, pointing to corporate ownership replacing the small, personal wineries that built Napa's reputation in the first place. Tourists chasing a rustic wine country escape often find a heavily commercialized operation instead. Rodeo Drive. Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills is sold as the ultimate celebrity shopping experience, a 3-block stretch lined with the world's most exclusive boutiques. Tourists flock here expecting designer storefronts and a chance encounter with a familiar face. The celebrity sightings rarely happen. What tourists actually find is a strip of extremely expensive stores most visitors can't afford to enter, let alone shop in. The boutiques cater to a tiny slice of ultra-wealthy shoppers, leaving everyone else to simply window shop a street that offers little else to do. Travel writers who've covered the area describe it plainly as a miss, noting the nice-looking storefronts don't make up for the complete absence of anything to actually experience without a 6-figure budget. For most tourists, a stop meant to feel glamorous ends up feeling like a 15-minute photo op and nothing more. Lombard Street. Lombard Street in San Francisco is famous worldwide as the crookedest street on the planet, a steep block of tight hairpin turns lined with flowers and mansions. It's one of the most photographed residential streets anywhere, drawing crowds hoping to drive or walk its famous curves. The reality is a traffic bottleneck. Visitors describe long waits just to drive the short stretch, with cars backed up for blocks during peak tourist hours. Locals openly call the street overrated, noting that the actual experience of navigating it takes only seconds despite the wait required to get there. For a spot famous mainly for a photograph, many tourists find themselves spending far more time in traffic than they do actually seeing what made the street famous in the first place. Golden Gate Bridge Walk. The Golden Gate Bridge is one of the most recognizable structures on Earth, and walking across it is billed as a bucket list San Francisco experience. Photos of the bridge at sunset have sold the idea of a peaceful, scenic stroll to travelers for decades. The walk itself tells a louder story. The bridge stretches nearly 2 miles and takes about 40 minutes to cross, with roughly 112,000 vehicles driving across it every single day. Visitors describe the noise as constant and overwhelming, with one tourist online warning future visitors to bring earplugs for the walk. Locals in San Francisco openly call the walking experience overrated, pointing out that driving across offers the same view without the noise. For tourists expecting a quiet, cinematic moment, the reality is closer to walking beside a packed freeway for 40 straight minutes. Venice Beach Boardwalk. Venice Beach Boardwalk is marketed as one of the most eclectic strips in California, packed with street performers, muscle beach bodybuilders, and beachfront energy found nowhere else. Tourists come expecting a colorful slice of West Coast counterculture. What many encounter instead is chaos. The boardwalk is frequently described as disorganized and overwhelming, with aggressive vendors and street hustlers approaching tourists throughout the walk. The energy that photographs so well can feel unsafe and exhausting up close, especially for visitors unfamiliar with the area. Add limited, expensive parking and a stretch that can take hours to properly explore, and the boardwalk becomes less of a scenic stroll and more of a gauntlet. Tourists chasing the laid-back California vibe often leave feeling like they walked into a much rougher experience than advertised. Madame Tussauds Hollywood. Madame Tussauds Hollywood promises up-close encounters with wax versions of the world's biggest celebrities right in the heart of Hollywood Boulevard. For tourists already walking the Walk of Fame, it's pitched as the next logical stop. Reviewers frequently describe the experience as underwhelming for the price, with some figures barely resembling the celebrities they're meant to represent. One visitor called the entire business model built around aggressive discount marketing, guessing that most people never actually pay full price, because the museum knows it isn't worth it its sticker value. A ticket runs around $30, not including the gift shop exit maze at the end. For fans of ironic photo ops, it can still be a quick, silly stop. But for anyone expecting a genuinely impressive wax museum experience, most reviews land in the same place. Fine to see once, not worth paying full price for. Santa Monica Pier. Santa Monica Pier is one of the most photographed spots in Los Angeles, home to a Ferris wheel, an amusement park, and sweeping ocean views. It's often the first stop for tourists wanting a classic California beach postcard moment. The reality on the ground is far more crowded. Visitors describe the pier as packed and chaotic, lined with souvenir shops and vendors pushing hard for a sale. Parking near the pier is scarce and expensive, and the boardwalk experience often feels more like a shopping gauntlet than a relaxing beach outing. The view is genuinely beautiful, and the Ferris wheel photo is worth the trip for some. But tourists expecting a peaceful beachfront afternoon often find themselves navigating crowds and pushy sales pitches instead. Disneyland Anaheim. Disneyland calls itself the happiest place on Earth, and for decades, it's been the gold standard for family vacations in Southern California. Tourists plan entire trips around a single day inside its gates, expecting the magic they've seen in commercials their whole lives. 2026 has turned into Disneyland's busiest year since the travel boom that followed the pandemic, with crowd levels hitting the highest points in years. Ticket deals have driven attendance through the roof, and visitors report packed walkways, hour-long waits for popular rides, and reservation systems that fill up fast. Even loyal annual pass holders describe struggling to get into the park on certain days. Add rising ticket prices on top of the crowding, and a day meant to feel magical can turn into a long, expensive slog through lines. For tourists who show up without a strategy, the happiest place on earth can feel like one of the most exhausting: Yosemite Valley. Yosemite Valley is one of the most iconic natural landscapes in the country, drawing millions of visitors every year to see its granite cliffs, waterfalls, and towering sequoias. For many tourists, it represents California's wild, untouched beauty at its best. That image has taken a hit recently. After the park's reservation system was eliminated for 2026, visitors have faced entrance waits stretching past 90 minutes, with parking lots reaching capacity by mid-morning and gridlock forming on the roads inside the valley. One tourist described it online as probably the worst national park experience of his life, saying he couldn't even enjoy the scenery because he was stuck in traffic all day. Park staff have reported the weekend chaos becoming an everyday occurrence as summer approaches. Photos of Half Dome and Yosemite Falls still look exactly like the postcards, but tourists arriving without knowing about the crowding often spend more time circling packed lots than actually standing in front of the views they came for. Hollywood sign, close-up attempt. The Hollywood sign is the single most recognizable symbol of the entertainment industry, visible from across Los Angeles. Every year, tourists try to get as close as possible for the perfect photo beneath the giant white letters. What most don't realize is that getting close is against the law. The sign is fenced off, monitored around the clock by security cameras and patrol officers, some by helicopter, and trespassing carries steep penalties. It's also been flagged as a possible target for security threats, adding another layer to why access is so tightly restricted. Tourists determined to get the up-close shot they've seen online often end up disappointed, fined, or turned away entirely. The safer and far more common route is photographing the sign from a distance and editing yourself in later, which is exactly what most visitors end up doing anyway. SeaWorld San Diego. SeaWorld San Diego built its reputation on jaw-dropping orca and dolphin shows, drawing families hoping for an unforgettable day of marine life encounters. For years, it was marketed as one of Southern California's premier theme parks. The park's image took a lasting hit after a 2013 documentary exposed serious animal welfare concerns tied to its orca breeding program, and public trust never fully recovered. One recent visitor summed up their trip bluntly online, saying they regretted wasting an entire day of vacation there and calling it a poorly run money grab. SeaWorld has since made changes to its animal care practices, but the shadow from its past controversies still shapes how many tourists view a visit today. For travelers hoping for pure family fun, the mixed feelings the park carries can make the day feel a lot heavier than expected. Fisherman's Wharf. Fisherman's Wharf is sold as San Francisco's must-see waterfront destination, packed with seafood restaurants, sea lions, and sweeping bay views. For decades, it's been the default first stop for tourists arriving in the city. Locals consistently name it one of the worst tourist traps in San Francisco. The boardwalk is lined with souvenir shops, selling the same trinkets and overpriced seafood stands, and the area is known for scammers who target distracted tourists. Crowds pack the walkway shoulder to shoulder in summer, and parking nearby is famously difficult to find. The sea lions are real, and the bay views are genuinely nice, but most of what surrounds them is designed purely to separate tourists from their money, and locals openly steer visitors elsewhere. Hollywood Walk of Fame. The Hollywood Walk of Fame is arguably the most famous strip of sidewalk in the world, home to nearly 3,000 stars, honoring the biggest names in entertainment. For most first-time visitors to Los Angeles, it feels like a mandatory stop. In 2025, a global study by luggage company Stasher ranked the Hollywood Walk of Fame dead last out of 101 major tourist attractions worldwide, scoring the lowest Google rating of any site analyzed. Visitors describe the area as crowded, dirty, and chaotic, with aggressive street vendors and panhandlers approaching tourists non-stop. The stars themselves are frequently cracked, faded, or covered in gum. For a landmark built entirely on Hollywood glamour, the real experience is a world away from the movies. Most reviewers agree it's worth seeing once, if only to say you did. Almost nobody says they'd come back. Every one of these places sold millions of people a dream and delivered a bill instead. The gap between the postcard and the reality is where every regret on this list begins. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more beyond belief facts, click on the video appearing on your screen now, and remember to hit the subscribe button.